Welcome to the Bike Life Podcast by Warmshowers Foundation, where we will be sharing knowledge, experience, tools, and stories of touring cyclists and hosts from around the world. I'm Taverlee, the woman behind the scenes at Warmshowers Foundation, the leading platform for cyclists looking for hosts and to connect with a passionate international community. Find out more by visiting us at Warmshowers.org. Now, on to the show.
Hey everyone, this is Jerry Kopak sitting in for Taverlee, coming to you from the mountains of Breckenridge, Colorado. When I'm not building spreadsheets as the finance guy for Warm Showers, I'm usually off riding my bike, either in Colorado or some remote mountain region in the world. Today I'm hanging out with Sanna Ghotbi and Benjamin Ladraa, bike travelers and activists from Sweden who are cycling through 40 countries all the way to Western Sahara to raise awareness for human rights there. Hey guys, thanks for taking the time and joining me today.
Thank you. We're really happy to be talking to you.
Great. So this is a bit of a heavy topic. And before we dig into it, I want to back up a bit. Biking across 40 countries, as you know, is of course no small task. I spent nearly 2 years cycling through Africa and Asia, and the one common thread that drew me in is what I like to call the human experience. The landscapes, the cultures, the foods, they were all fascinating, of course, but ultimately it was the human that were the most interesting to me. Everyone that I met along my journey was inherently kind, helpful, and generous. Beyond your mission for this tour, are there any other things that drive you?
I think it's like you say, it's meeting new people and experiencing the world. Firstly, it's obviously the human rights situation that drives us, and we're really interested in learning about new cultures and the situation and the places that we visit. So we're not only always talking about Western Sahara, we're also trying to learn about the local issues in the places that we visit so that we can travel consciously.
Yeah, we meet a lot of interesting people, and we also meet human rights organizations along the way. So I think we have a different journey than most people because we travel with a human rights focus.
Okay, I love that. So let's get into it then. Tell us about Solidarity Rising and how you got involved in this movement.
Sure. Solidarity Rising is an activist organization, and we're working towards the liberation of all colonized peoples, and now we're focusing on the Sahrawis who live in Western Sahara. We've only really done two major projects like this. The previous one was called Walk to Palestine, and that was a walk from Sweden to Palestine to raise awareness about the human rights situation in Palestine. And now we're riding across the entire world to raise awareness across the human rights situation in Western Sahara. And we find that doing these kind of long journeys is a really effective method because you get to meet so many people, and people are interested in talking to you because you're not just approaching them with a heavy topic that perhaps they don't know so much about, but you can also talk about this experience that you're going through. And it's a quite unique way of approaching this topic.
Wow. So you walked from Sweden to Western Sahara?
To Palestine.
To Palestine. I'm sorry, you said that. How was that? How long did that take? How do you plan for something like that?
Yeah, the planning was, there wasn't so much planning in terms of routes and stuff. I've learned a lot since then. And actually, I met a guy in Austria who showed me how to make a daily plan of how long you should be walking. And it's about 40 kilometers a day that you can walk after you've gained some endurance. And it took 11 months, almost 5,000 kilometers. And so, it's the same for us right now that we're learning a lot. I mean, you can't figure this out before you go. You have to figure it out on the way.
Yeah, there's ultimately things that you can't plan for. Sort of the expression, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
So whose idea was this trip? Because it's big.
Yeah, well, this trip, the idea started when during the walk to Palestine, but it really got thoroughly dissected with me and Sanna before heading out. And we started, now it's been 7 or 8 months ago.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was during the pandemic that the plan was actually to start 2020, and then the pandemic hit, and a lot of things got in the way. We were planning to start from Japan, not Sweden, but then Japan shut down in the entire country. It was impossible to travel there, and we were planning to take the Trans-Siberian route, but then Russia. The war happened, and there's been so many things that has kind of blocked our initial paths that we were planning.
So how long do you think this will take, this trip through 40 countries?
Around 2 years to do the whole thing. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a long time.
It's a long time. So will you go continuously for 2 years, or will you go out and come back to sort of reset or pick up supplies, or we just keep going for 2 years?
We're currently on a 1 month break in Sweden because we were landlocked. So we were traveling in Europe all the way to the Kurdish part of Turkey. But then from there, it wasn't possible to continue because of what's happening in Iran right now. And Russia again, and Syria. So we decided to take a plane. And so now we're in Sweden. And then in just 5 days, we're traveling to India to continue our route in Asia.
Ooh, I like this, because I think we talked in the early interview that I had just gotten back from India as well. So we'll definitely come back to some India discussion in a minute. Speaking of India, so you kind of touched briefly on your roots. Give us an overview, because obviously, if I look at a map, you could head straight south from Sweden, and it's 4 or 5, maybe 6 countries. But I know that doesn't give you the same kind of exposure that you're looking for. So give me an overview of your routes, and is there any significance to the number of countries or which ones that you'll be traveling through?
Yeah, so the plan was to start in the country furthest away from Western Sahara and travel pretty much only by land with a few boats all the way to Western Sahara. And that country happened to be Japan. Oh. So if you would imagine a long line from Japan through Southeast Asia and crisscrossing as many countries as you can along the way, that would be the basic idea. But then, as Sanna said, Japan closed their borders, and we had already quit our jobs and rented out our apartment, and we were ready to go. So we just thought, hey, let's go towards Japan. Let's start from Sweden and go southeast and see how far we'll get before they open up. And here we are 8 months later, and they have opened up. China is still closed, though, so we have to skip China as well. But now we're going to Japan after India, and we're going to take it, we're going to start on the original route basically soon. So we've added basically half a year to the route going through all of Europe.
Right, because I'm just thinking, if you are thinking about China, I mean, China could be a year by itself. It's massive. I spent 3 months cycling through the Tibetan Plateau several years ago, and I barely scraped even the surface of China. And it was an amazing experience, but it's massive.
Yeah, and we were considering going through Tibet as well, but we read with the Chinese visas and stuff that they wanted a security detail. They said it was a travel guide, but as we know, Tibet is under Chinese occupation, so it's really probably someone that's reporting to the police all the time about your activities. Yeah. And they wanted money to bring this person along, a lot of money every day, and we just couldn't afford it, and it felt wrong biking there with if you're going there, we thought we should be meeting with the activists and the people, but that's hard if you have the police following you around every day.
Yeah, so I had a similar thought process when I traveled through China and specifically Eastern Tibet. So I wasn't in the Tibet Autonomous Region in Lhasa, where they do require a tour guide daily with you, and there was a daily tourist fee. And so you're right, it was very cost prohibitive. And it seems like I wanted to see China and Eastern Tibet and the culture. And it was hard because in that region, you had someone who was essentially taking you to places that they wanted you to see, whereas wasn't how I wanted to travel, nor could I afford that kind of travel. So,
yeah, and I think it's something that we've discovered while traveling is that this is not uncommon. A lot of countries do have restrictions and do have human rights situations like in Tibet, but as travelers, we often don't see it or we don't know about it unless we're exposed to it by some reason. And I think there's so many countries that have all of these, unknown situations. And that's when you ask about the countries we're most excited about or interested in. I think it's those kind of places that we are interested in to learn about and not just travel, but also learn from the locals.
So I'm curious. You've obviously walked through a lot of countries, and now you plan on cycling through even more. Are there countries that maybe give you a little bit more pause, give you more concern, make you nervous about going through?
I mean, we just visited Turkey for 2 months, and it was a very hard situation for many reasons. Turkey doesn't like human rights defenders that much. They regularly imprison people who work for human rights organizations in the country. For example, a lot of people working for Amnesty internationally who have visited Turkey has been arrested. So we were very worried when we were going there. And we usually travel with a big flag, Western Sahara flag, and we'd have to take it down before we enter Turkey because we were very worried that the police would stop us.
Sure.
And I'm also Kurdish. My parents are Kurdish, and the Turkish governments don't really like Kurdish people. So we had a lot of these difficulties. And while we were traveling, we actually got stopped by police many times, and we were scared a lot, actually. There was a lot of military surveillance. A lot of people we met had been imprisoned or had a lot of tough situations in their lives. But so it was a mix. It was like super scary to be there, but at the same time, so much hospitality. So we met so many nice families. There was so much love towards strangers. In spite of them living in a scary situation like that. So it was very inspiring in that way.
Wow. I've cycled through Turkey, but obviously I wasn't flying a Western Sahara flag or anything like that. I wasn't on a mission the way that you guys were. So I had a different experience, and I can't imagine what that must have felt like to be put in those situations. That must have been scary and nerve-wracking.
Yeah, I mean, we were interviewing a lot of Kurdish people and human rights organizations, and we had these interviews on our phones, our laptops, and hard drives, and we knew that if the police stop us and for some reason search through our stuff, it's a one-way ticket to trouble. And you'd never know like what kind of trouble, but it's not something you would like to find out either. So you're always on edge, and you can't really trust everybody you meet either because you don't really know what they think about everything.
Sure.
So we're hanging out with a lot of people, but we felt like we had to keep the human rights part of it kind of quiet. We couldn't really say to everybody what we were doing, and that's also stressful.
Yeah, it's as I mentioned, it's a much different banner, metaphorically speaking, to travel under. So I was traveling solo as an American to these places just as a tourist out of curiosity. So it's a much different mentality, much different banner to travel on. So you definitely, I'm sure, attracted more attention than I did, or at least different attention, because I definitely attract attention when I travel as well, because a lot of these places people don't travel by bike. And so I'm automatically curious to a lot of people. But when they hear my story, they find out that I'm American and this is why I'm traveling, just for the love of travel, for the curiosity, for this connection. It's probably a different experience than what you guys have experienced once you start really sharing and opening up about your stories.
Yeah, and then, I mean, it's also interesting because it invites people to talk about things that I don't think they talk about with regular travelers. Also, like for example, we were in Bosnia, and obviously They had a war in the country in the 90s, and we have a lot of Bosnian refugees in Sweden. We grew up with children from former Yugoslavia and those countries, but we didn't really fully know about the details. But when we traveled there, and since we were human rights activists, we were able to talk to and meet a lot of people that I don't think regular bikers do, like genocide survivors, people who experienced the war, people who were talking about removing landmines, and all of those things that is so hard to understand. But we were able to meet the people and learn about it directly.
Yeah, that's something as people in say Western Europe. I'll speak personally from people in say the United States. They don't really have an awareness because the last time we had a war on our soil was 300 years ago. And so it's a lot of people don't have that awareness, that perspective. But when you start getting into places where there's actually a war on their soil, it changes a person. And I was in Israel cycling in the north in the Golan Heights region. So it was near the Syrian border and near the Lebanese border. And
we're actually in occupied Syria because Israel has been occupying the Golan Heights since 1967.
Correct. Yeah. And there's definitely, as you know, some contentious areas up there. And so there's border walls, there's armored up Humvees, there's people with guns walking all the time. And it was interesting to me because when I was up there, the people who live in those regions, I guess you can get used to anything. And so people just got used to it. And so I would stop at a coffee shop to get breakfast or to fill up some water, or I would take a train someplace. And there'd be someone in military fatigues with a machine gun, or there'd be a Humvee or something driving along down the street, or parked in a car park near like a neighborhood park. And it just seemed like people just got used to it. And initially when I saw this, I was very nervous, but I was greeted with such kindness, such generosity, such welcomingness that after a while I too got used to it. And so I guess it's a testament to what you can get used to and what becomes your new normal. It was fascinating to me.
Yeah, and being an American, you would also be super welcome there because actually during the Trump administration, the U.S. recognized the occupied Golan Heights as a part of Israel, and as a thank you to that, Israel renamed Golan Heights to Trump Heights.
I read something about that. Yeah, that was interesting times for sure. When you guys were walking from Sweden to Palestine, how was that trip? I'm assuming you went through Israel and into Palestine and crossed into Gaza?
Yeah, that would have been the way if it hadn't been a political project and talking about the human rights situation. Yeah. But after having spent 11 months on the road talking about Palestine every single day and about the human rights atrocities, the houses being demolished, the people being imprisoned and tortured, and all that stuff, and carrying the Palestinian flag, of course.
Of course.
On the border, as with everybody, all the borders in Palestine are controlled by Israel. So if Israel doesn't like you, you won't get in. And after 6 hours of interrogation, and of them telling me that they really don't appreciate people talking about Palestine and human rights, and basically saying "fuck off," they just sent me right back and didn't allow me to enter Palestine. So
yeah, I can't imagine what it would be like to not be American and traveling through that space with maybe a different agenda. That you probably weren't welcomed in a lot of places.
No, and especially not into Palestine by the Israelis.
But was it an otherwise good experience? Did you meet some interesting people along the way?
I mean, it was an amazing experience. And as everybody who travels know, it's very, very difficult to summarize in a sentence or even 10 sentences. Because a whole year of your life where every day is like very intense. You wake up in a new place, you meet new people, and you go to sleep in a different place. And every day is like that. I mean, it's just overwhelming. And it was really impactful. I mean, it was really covered in a lot of medias, and it got a bigger reach than I could ever imagine.
Wow.
It felt like it was really an important project, and there was so much love and support from especially the Palestinian people and just people in general, because this is a question that even though many people have heard about it, few people really know the actual situation happening there, and few people do much to engage with the topic as well. So it was really appreciated by
for sure.
all the communities in the countries I go. And Palestinians are one of the biggest refugee communities in the world. I think there are about 7 million Palestinian refugees.
Wow.
So there was a lot of families taking me in every country. I didn't know there were Palestinians in Bulgaria and in Serbia and everywhere, but there were. So I found a lot of places to sleep very naturally. unlike our trip now, because we're biking for Western Sahara, and the Sahrawis are a small community. There are only about half a million people across the world. So you won't find Sahrawis anywhere. You will find them in Western Sahara, in the refugee camps in Algeria, and the diaspora is mainly in Spain, because they used to be a Spanish colony before Morocco occupied it.
Right, because it's just south of Morocco, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's next to Algeria, between Mauritania, and yeah, it used to be a colony for 100 years, a Spanish colony. So the people speak Spanish, actually, although their first language is Hassaniya, a variant of Arabic. But yeah, and there's not a lot of them, so, like Benjamin was saying. So
right.
Not a lot of them in Sweden, for example.
So it sounds like you guys have done some big adventures. You've done a big walking trip. Now you're doing a big bike trip. And why a bike as your platform? I think I know the answer, but I just kind of want to hear it directly from you guys. Like, why did you choose biking as opposed to another walk?
Yeah, so one reason is we want to cover as many countries as possible to meet as many different peoples from different nations. And that way you can spread more awareness. And if we would walk through 40 countries, it would take like the double the time at least, I think. And obviously we wanted to travel in a sustainable way. So it's either walking or biking. We don't want to fly everywhere, being conscious of the environment. And it's a nice way to experience the country. Obviously, that's why we all bike and slow travel and everything.
Yeah, I know that from having done a bunch of bicycle tours myself through the places that we've already talked about. There's just something inviting about somebody rolling through a small town or a village on a bicycle. Obviously, like as you mentioned, you can take a bus or a train or even a plane and still get to the same place. But there's just something about coming through on a bike that it's disarming. It makes them more curious. There are places that I went through in India that I couldn't travel even through a single village without people dropping everything, coming out of their house, coming out of their restaurant, and wanting to come connect with me. Kind of going back to this concept of what I call the human experience. There'd be some times when people would be driving in their car and would stop and turn around just to come talk to me. And so I'm guessing that with your experience, you'll probably have a lot of those opportunities as well, just to connect with people.
Yeah, and I mean, the hospitality, I mean, it's amazing as well. It's no matter where you go in the world, there's always people who are kind to you. It doesn't matter if you don't speak the same language, you have different ethnicities, religions, or whatever. We've experienced that so many times that we're just biking on a road and suddenly someone stops and asks us to dinner or wondering if we need water or anything. And it's really nice. And you feel like all of the bad things that are happening in the world that you're reading about in the news, it's nice to know that people are kind. I mean, people are kind everywhere. We just have to remember that. And I think it's because you see someone on a bike, it's very obvious that you're a visitor and maybe you're lost or you're in need of something, and it becomes concrete for people to take action. We just hope that we can, inspire people to do that more and to show solidarity for each other.
We should tell the story, since we're going to India soon, about the two Indian people we met in Montenegro.
Wait.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you've ever biked in Montenegro, Jerry.
I have traveled in Montenegro, but I've never actually cycled there.
Yeah.
So I would love to hear your perspectives.
I mean, we've traveled through 14 countries so far in our journey. And by far, Montenegro was the hardest when it comes to the incline. It's mountains all over. I mean, the country is named the Black Mountain.
Yeah.
So it's kind of obvious that they have mountains. But we were shocked because there was this one day when we were traveling together with a German biker also. And one day we had to climb over 2,000 meters, and the incline was sometimes over 30%. So we had to push our bikes.
30%?
It was yes, it was.
That's like climbing a ladder.
Extreme. Yeah. And it was raining. So when we started out, we took coverage in the nearest village and waited out the rain. And we were thinking, should we continue or not? And then we decided, let's go, let's try. And it was a bad idea because then a storm came and we were in the middle of this mountain And the nearest city was like 60 kilometers away, and there was nowhere to camp because it was so steep everywhere. And we were on this really, really like long, thin road. So when a car came, there was nowhere to move, basically. So it was very scary, and the roads were getting wet. And we were thinking, are we going to survive? It was kind of, a bit scary. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, this car shows up, and an Indian couple steps out, and they're like, wow, we just started biking. We live in UK, and we can really appreciate what you guys are doing. Do you need help? And in the end, they offered to take all of our bags to make it easier for us. So they took all our bags in there, and our bags are very heavy, I might add. Like Benjamin's bike with the bags weigh 60 kilos, and mine is like 40 something. Yeah, because we have camera equipment, kilos. We have a drone, we have computers.
So for those of us not on the metric system, as we all should be, but that's about 120 pounds. Wow, it is incredible.
Heavy. In the mountains, it's very heavy.
It's so heavy. Wow. And you were pushing that up you said a 30-degree incline in some places?
Yeah. Trying to bike it. It's actually easier to bike than push when it's that heavy.
I agree.
But sometimes we were just miserable. And then these guys come and they take our stuff, and we had to really trust them. And we did because we were so desperate. And they offered us also to stay with them in their. They were renting out a cottage from Airbnb.
Okay.
And after we took off all our stuff, it was like a renaissance. Like you realize that it's actually possible to bike up this hill. Like we're not weak. It's just the luggage that makes it so damn hard. So then we were going so much faster. We still arrived 10 or 11 in the evening, and freezing cold. It was freezing outside, and also thunderstorms up on the mountain. When we peaked the mountain, it started with the lightning, and that was scary. We thought we were gonna be struck maybe.
And since we gave all our bags, all of our clothes, extra clothes, were in the bags.
Yeah.
So when it started becoming really cold, we couldn't really do anything. And then after 2,000 meters climbing, suddenly there was this really steep downhill, and we were slipping so hard. And then since it was raining, Benjamin's glasses were fogging up and becoming all wet, so he had to take them off, and I had to guide him
I was biking
that must have been
Sanna.
Scary.
She was just saying
in the downhill.
Really fast. She was saying there's a bump to the right, avoid that. There's a hole over there, because the road wasn't great either. So it was full of holes. And
right.
Yeah,
so
thinking back, it was a crazy day. It was one of those days you're wondering, I'm just going to be happy if I make it to tomorrow.
Right. And so I don't know if you ever heard the expression type 1 fun and type 2 fun. Type 1 fun is, this is enjoyable right now. I'm having a good time in the moment. Type 2 fun is, this is pretty terrible, and I hope I make it out of this. And then once you get through it, whether it's a day, a week, a month, or a year later, you look back on it with sort of fond recollection and say, hey, remember that time we were in Montenegro and I couldn't see and you were guiding me down? That was really amazing. What a great experience that was. That's type 2 fun. So it sounds like you're kind of on the border of type 2.
Yeah. And I mean, it's you never enjoy the feeling of a warm shower. Or a bed or anything after an experience like that. It puts things into perspective, really.
Yeah. And then once you get through it, you realize you're safe, you have some food, you meet some amazing people, and you get cleaned up and dry. And then, it's like a big reset, and tomorrow's a new day, right?
Yeah,
and we of course want to give a shout out if Senora and Arjun are listening to this. You really saved us, and they also wrote us an India guide with places to see, stuff to do, and food to eat. So they really help us out, and you really meet amazing people that can become friends for life, probably, when you're doing something like this.
I couldn't agree more. When I was in Nepal several years ago, I met an amazing Swiss couple, and I had been traveling by myself for probably 6 months. Met the Swiss couple. We were kind of going the same direction, and we decided to cycle together for what I thought would be maybe a week or two. We were together every day for about 6 months and become the best of friends. And so you really do meet amazing people if you just, I don't know, slow down and open your mind, open your heart, and just become more welcoming to people. And that was definitely my biggest takeaway with traveling by bicycle, the people that I've met.
Definitely. Yeah. And it's a nice way to connect again to the rest of the world, like even countries you're not traveling to, like you meet so many people biking, especially German people. They're everywhere when you're biking.
They are. You're right.
Yeah.
Those guys are so adventurous. It's unbelievable. I couldn't go to a country without meeting somebody from Germany.
But it's also made us reflect, traveling like this is a privilege. Not everybody can do it.
Yes.
Not everybody has the passport that we do. The Swedish passport allows us to travel anywhere. And we've realized that now we're going to East Asia, that some countries actually require a visa. And that's a new process for us because we're so used to just breezing through borders. And the people we meet on the road in some countries, a lot of them are saying like, yeah, I wish I could do something like that. But, for me, visas are expensive and it's not easy and I won't get it, so I can't do it. So we should appreciate and we should bike more since we can. I mean, since we have this privilege, we should do it and do something with it also.
Yeah, I completely agree. We are very fortunate in the Western part of the world to be able to travel this way, to be able to travel this freely, and it's truly a gift. I agree. So I want to just circle back one last time here. So regarding your mission to Western Sahara, ideally with any situation like you're going through like this, regardless of how dark the situation, the circumstances are, there's going to be some light that comes from it. Tell us about a desired outcome that you hope to gain from this experience. Are there measures for success?
One thing that's already happened, just like not even halfway through, is that we've gotten so much love and support from Sahrawi people themselves. Like Benjamin mentioned, there's not a lot of them. There's like 500,000 in total. And about 200,000 live in refugee camps in the middle of the desert for 50 years. So they don't really, they just recently got internet. And they have like a television, national television and radio station, and they talk about us regularly.
Wow.
And follow us. And it's not a lot of time in life that you can say that you've inspired an entire population anywhere. It's crazy when we think about it. Like because we don't see them. Like we're on the road, we're only thinking about being hungry and cold and all of that. But sometimes we have to remind ourselves, like, okay, they are actually living in a desert. It's 50 degrees in the summer. They don't have access to a lot of food or water. Children don't have a lot of things to do. Like the unemployment rate is so high. And here we are experiencing the world and biking because we can. And they're like cheering for us. So that's an outcome we've already seen. And it means a lot to them. So that makes us really happy.
Wow. And we're just really looking forward to arriving in the refugee camps. They are in Algeria, and meeting all the people and being with them for a while. And then perhaps if the security situation allows, we will bike into the liberated parts of Western Sahara. The country is divided by the world's second longest wall. The wall is 2,700 kilometers. It's huge. Wow. Second only after the wall in China. Sure. And on the eastern part of the wall, the Sahrawis are still holding on to 20% or so of their land. And if we could finish our trip there, that would be amazing. But it depends, because there's a lot of landmines and there's a lot of things that can happen.
Sure.
But in either way, we're just really looking forward to meeting the Sahrawis and spending some time with them, and just sharing all our contacts that we met with them and helping them in any way we can.
You guys are truly inspiring and proof that you are definitely doing good things for people in the world. And I have really enjoyed our time talking to you. So for people who are out there listening to this, are there ways for people to find you, to learn more about your mission and your cause, maybe social channels?
Yeah, so we have social media accounts, Solidarity Rising, mainly on Instagram and Facebook. And there we update regularly about our travel, and people can also contact us there for anything. If they want to bike with us, we love company on the road. So you're welcome also, Jerry, by
I
the
would
way.
love that. That would be an amazing experience. Just no 30-degree slopes, hopefully.
You never know.
And 50-degree temperatures in the summer is really hot.
Yeah, we do have 2,000 kilometers of Sahara Desert to bike through on the final stretch.
How do you even plan for that?
Yeah.
I have no idea. Like I do well in the mountains. I don't do well in 50-degree temperatures, which is about 130 degrees Fahrenheit, which that might kill me. So
I don't think anybody does well. Well, the Sahrawis maybe, but not us.
Fair enough.
And also, I want to add, if there are hosts that are warm shower hosts that are listening in any of the countries that we're traveling to, we would love to meet you.
Yeah.
We've had so many great experiences with hosts. Like it's really been one of the best parts of the trip, like meeting families and fellow bikers who are so kind to strangers. It's been amazing.
I love that sentiment. Bikes, I think I don't know, maybe this is a bit simplistic, but I think if everyone could ride a bike, I think it would just make everyone happier. That's my philosophy on life. So
you're probably right.
Well, thanks guys for joining me today. And I want to thank all of our listeners out there for checking in for our conversation with Sanna and Benjamin. And as always, give us a like, a share in your social channels, or just tell your friends. These stories will hopefully inspire you to set off on your own bicycle adventure and maybe make the world feel a little bit smaller, one pedal stroke at a time. My name is Jerry Kopak, and I hope you enjoyed our show today.
Thank you for joining us, and we hope you enjoyed the show as much as we enjoyed making it. Wherever you are listening, please leave us a rating and a review, as it helps us reach more cyclists and hosts around the world. Visit us at Warmshowers.org to become a part of our community, or on Instagram at Warmshowers_org. If you would like to be a guest on the show or submit a question, please make sure to email us at podcast@warmshowers.org.